Have you ever walked through the neon-lit streets of Seoul and felt an invisible tension? A silent war being waged not on a battlefield, but in cafes, offices, and online forums. This is the story of South Korea, a nation at a crossroads, where a deep and bitter gender conflict is reshaping society, and a growing number of men are simply giving up on love. It's a paradox, isn't it? In a country known for its heart-fluttering K-dramas and romantic pop songs, real-life romance is in crisis. Men are increasingly choosing to stay single, not out of a lack of desire, but as a form of protest, a retreat from a battle they feel they can't win. They call themselves the herbivore men, trading relationships for personal hobbies, careers, and solitude. But why? What has pushed them to this point? To understand this, we need to rewind. South Korea's rapid economic development, the miracle on the Han River, created a hyper-competitive society. For generations, traditional patriarchal structures defined roles. Men were the providers, the breadwinners, bearing immense pressure to succeed. Women were expected to manage the home and raise children. But this old model is cracking under the strain of modern life. Then came the feminist wave. South Korean women, armed with a new language to describe their frustrations, began to push back against systemic inequality, rigid beauty standards, and a pervasive culture of misogyny. The hashtag #MeToo movement hit South Korea like a tidal wave, exposing powerful men and giving a voice to the silenced. This was a long overdue and necessary reckoning. However, in this deeply polarized environment, the conversation didn't lead to dialogue. It escalated into a full-blown war. Online, anonymous forums became echo chambers of hatred. Certain radical feminist groups on one side and anti-feminist men's rights groups on the other began to dominate the discourse. The language became extreme. Men were labeled as potential criminals, Han Nam Chung, or male insects. Women were called kimchi-nyo, gold diggers obsessed with luxury. Imagine being a young man coming of age in this environment. You're told you are the beneficiary of a patriarchal system you didn't create, yet you feel crushed by its expectations. You face a brutal job market, skyrocketing housing prices, and the immense pressure to provide. Then, you go online and see yourself generalized as an oppressor, a latent predator. The very act of approaching a woman can feel like walking through a minefield. A misstep, a clumsy word, could lead to public shaming. For many, the risk-reward calculation of dating just doesn't add up anymore. The potential for misunderstanding, accusation, and emotional exhaustion seems to outweigh the potential for love and companionship. So they retreat. They invest their time and money in themselves. They find community not with a partner, but with other single men who share their feelings of disenfranchisement. This isn't just a few isolated individuals. It's a social phenomenon. This has real-world consequences. South Korea already has the world's lowest birth rate, a demographic time bomb that threatens the country's future. Marriage rates are plummeting. The silent war between the sexes is creating a society of lonely individuals, coexisting in crowded cities but separated by an invisible wall of resentment and fear. It's easy to point fingers, to blame one side or the other. But the reality is far more complex. This isn't just about radical feminists or angry men. It's about a society struggling to reconcile its past with its future. It's about the failure of a moderate, compassionate middle ground to make itself heard above the shouting. The cinematic, black-and-white imagery of a lonely man on a crowded subway or a woman sitting alone in a bustling cafe isn't just an artistic choice. It's a reflection of a national mood, a deep, collective loneliness born from a conflict where everyone seems to be losing. What's the way out? It has to start with empathy. It requires moving beyond the toxic online rhetoric and seeing the human being on the other side. Men need to listen to women's legitimate grievances about inequality and safety. And women need to acknowledge the real pressures and anxieties that modern men face. This isn't a uniquely Korean problem, either. All over the world, gender roles are in flux, and societies are grappling with the fallout. But the situation in South Korea serves as a stark warning of what can happen when dialogue breaks down and is replaced by accusation. When empathy is lost, and the search for love becomes a casualty of war. The future of South Korea depends on its ability to heal this divide. It requires a new social contract, one that doesn't pit men and women against each other in a zero-sum game. It's a monumental task, but it begins with small acts of understanding. It begins with the courage to listen, to connect, and to believe that love is still worth the risk. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the cultural shifts shaping our world. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.